In our last video, we talked about if statements. Here, we talked about assignment statements and strings and basic variables. Here, we're going to start talking about conditional logic and the if statement. So normally, logic works like this. Let's say we have a payroll program and we say, hours worked can't type today. Work equals 38 and hourly rate equals 25, and we wanted to print out a pay stub saying how much we made for hours. You work your gross pay is, now I didn't define that, so I'm going to go here and define it as gross pay equals hourly rate times hours worked. Now, let's run this to make sure it works, because that's what we do. Now we've built our file. Let's go to that, and we're going to run it. It rolled from the bottom, and I can't see it. You work 38 hours at a rate of 25 hours. Your gross pay is $950. Now we could pretty it up just to be a little bit better. And we'll save it, and we'll run it to get a little bit prettier printout. Alright, so now, what if we want to pay overtime? Okay, so this is a computation for standard time. Now we want to say, wrong language. Now we want to say, what if we want to say for if we have overtime? So what we could say here is, if hours worked greater than 40, colon, because that's how it's. Now notice it auto indented. If you don't indent, Python will yell at you and not run your program. So if hours work, what we want to say is, well, first let's come up here. We'll say overtime equals 0. Initialize a variable. Then we're going to say overtime equals hours worked minus 40. And to compute overtime, we'll have another variable called overtime pay equals overtime times hourly rate times 1.5, so we get paid time and a half. Okay, and now what we're going to print is print F, who worked hours of overtime for an additional pay, TF, okay, now, here we have to put in our end, sorry, I'm confusing languages. In Python, you don't have to do that. So now, if we try saving it first and running it, the reason it didn't work is because I didn't update the hours worked. Right? All right, so let's make some changes to make our program a little bit more user-friendly. First, we're going to input the hours worked. So we're going to say hours worked equals float input hours worked. I'm sorry. Hours worked. And we'll say the same thing here. Now notice that we're now allowing a decimal hours work, so you can say like 2.5 hours. So we're going to have to format that. All right, so now if we run it, what are we going to get? Enter hours worked. We'll say, let's first test the base condition. And that's 25. And 38 hours at 25, your total is 950. So the base case still works. It didn't break anything. Now let's try the if case. We'll say, and hours work, 48, 47, 46, who cares? 25. And now we get 6 hours at time and a half. Make sure that computation is correct. So that's 37.5 times 6. Is that about right? Just checking here. Which is an additional $225. Yay. We made some extra money. So now, what if, though, we want to take our program and we only want to show overtime if there is any, but we want to show a different message saying there's no overtime if there's not. So what we could do here is say else print you worked no overtime this pay period. Okay, so now let's run it. And we'll say we worked, whoops, we'll say we worked 40 hours, 45 hours, 79 hours, who cares, at 25 an hour, and you work no overtime this pay period. So let's test all our conditions. Let's say exactly 40 hours. Let's say we work exactly 40 hours. Now we're at 22.5. And it says we know we're overtime. Now, if we just go up 1, we get 1 hour of overtime. So our program seems to work. Now, here's a condition we might want to check for. Let's say hours worked is -5. Okay. This works, but it's not what we want. So what we could do here is we could have another if statement. We've inputted our hourly rate and that sort of thing. So now let's put another if here. We'll say if hours worked is greater than 0, then we'll do this stuff. Because we can have nested ifs, okay, else print hours worked must be greater than 0. Okay, and we can make this an F string and put a little extra information. You entered hours worked. All right. So now, I forgot to go in there. You'll notice now we have a nested if. Okay. We'll say we'll enter here. Let's test our thing. We'll say -5, and we'll say 25. And hours are greater than 0. u under negative 5. So it worked right. Now let's make sure we didn't break anything. So 25, 5, and I accidentally hit a extra quote character, and I broke my program. So let's run it again. And we'll later figure out how to do that too. We'll say 25 times 5. Our program still works. Now let's test. Again, we'll say 45 times 5. And we've got our overtime. So far our program works really well. A couple things we'd like to change. What if our hours are exactly 40? Well, we have we can add another if in here. We could have a nested if. It's an if, but that doesn't do what we want. So another option we could do, like I said, is we could nest an if, but we don't want to do that. But let's do that just to be safe. Say if, well, what we could say is, here we could say, if hours worked equals 40, we say print hour equals 40, then let's say print no extra at all. Okay, there's something else in here, right? So now we've got multiple pathways and a nested if. Okay, so now if we run it, we can say, what if we try it with, so now if we run it, we can say enter hours worked, and we put enter 40, 25 characters, and we'll get no extra at all. So it works well this way, except for the fact that this isn't very clear. So what we can do, instead, get rid of this and replace it with elif, which is a magic word that is an abbreviation of else if. And then we can pop this guy back out here, and we got to say if elif x, or hours worked, equals 40, then print no extra at all, else. Now this makes our logic much cleaner. Okay, so let's save it and run it real quick. And we'll say 40, 25, and that works. Now let's try some of our other conditions. We'll say negative 40, 25, u under negative 40, it's an error. Let's try, 35, and 10, and there's no overtime, and then let's try 45 and 20. And there's overtime. Okay, so that's great, and here's an example of this. Now I want to look at a couple really quick other functions. Say we have a string. We can look at this string. Oh, I don't need this string. Wrong one. We can look at this string, and what if we want to, and here, let's just print the string. What if we just want to print like the third character? Or just assign it to another variable. Y equals x, but we only want the fifth character. We can say x sub 4. Remember, we're 0-based. Okay, so to print the 8th character, we can say y equals x sub 8, and then print 8, and if we run it, we will say it will print the 8th character, which is O. We can also do it directly. We can say x sub 8. And this would also print O. Then, some of the things we can also do is we can say lower. If we want to make it lowercase, let's do 7 because it's more interesting here. There we go. Okay. And then we can also do upper. Another thing we'll talk about real quick is imports and random numbers. So, sometimes we need stuff from another library, another set of functions. So we say from, in this case, random is the name of the library, import, and you import the name of the function you need. In this case, rand int. Okay, and then we can say here, number equals rand int from 1 to 100, print number, and it'll print a random number from 1 to 100. Okay, and we got 49 this time. Let's run it again. We got 31, and then we got 48. So there you go. There's some advice on how to use random numbers and strings and if statements.